Did you know something new is invented every 10 minutes? Join us as we speak to the innovators reinventing our world here on planet Earth and far, far beyond. Welcome to GTWN Now, a podcast brought to you by the Global Telecom Women's Network and sponsored by CMS Global. GTWN Now introduces the movers and the makers at the cutting edge of technology who are committed to keeping us all connected. In each episode, we invite a leading expert to share her experience building life-changing inventions in places and spaces that don't yet exist, and the inspiration they must muster to tackle the impossible. We also ask our guests to share tips, tools, and strategies to reach your own moonshot. I'm your host, Rosali Gitau, founder of Bixi FinTech for Women and Global Telecom Women's Network International Board member. Welcome to GTWN Now. Welcome back, GTWNers, and thank you for joining us for this important episode on data centers in space. So this season has been front-loaded, really, by AI experts, shedding light on the salience of AI technology and its prospects for our future. However, what is less apparent is how are we planning to power this whole AI revolution? Here with us today to provide some insight is Chris Stott. So Chris is an all-arounder. Chris puts data centers on the moon, but the people this helps are squarely here on Earth. Chris is currently the executive chair of Lone Star Holdings, which has successfully put data centers on the moon, proposing to safely and securely store data away from the dangers of war and climate change. Beyond Lone Star, Chris has a 25-year-long career in the space industry. Founding Mansat, the world's first and now largest commercial satellite spectrum firm, and working as an executive for Lockheed Martin and Boeing. British-born, Chris is also a member of the Royal Astronomical Society, but he now resides in Houston, Texas, with his wife, a retired NASA astronaut, Nicole Stott, and their son. Chris, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you very much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here today.
So I want to just jump right in. I've said a lot about, a very long and different career. I'd love to talk about your background. You have such a diverse background. You've taken your interest in space technology, threading it through business, government, media. How do you decide what the next right move is? Maybe you could give us a little bit of how did you start in one place and end up where you are now?
Oh, well, thank you. I always had this, and for everyone, thank you for listening. And look, just follow your passion. I cannot remember a time in my entire life when I wasn't fascinated with space. Okay, space and dinosaurs for a little bit, both, when I was a kid. But literally, it's the strangest thing. It's been an absolute passion and fixation of mine since my earliest waking memories.
What part of it?
Yeah. Oh, just the awe, the interest, the imperative, the urgency of doing this work. I mean, literally, since I was about 3 or 4, even younger, it was, oh my gosh, we have to do space. It needs to get done quick.
Why?
Saves the human race. It is literally the only thing, it's the only solution that will save all of us. It will lift us out of poverty, from scarcity to abundance. And as Larry Niven, the great sci-fi author and patron of the Institute of Space Commerce, likes to say, the dinosaurs became extinct because they didn't have a space program.
Shame on dinosaurs.
Right? I think it was that dinosaur, the space thing. I was like, oh, wait a minute, there's an asteroid coming. It took, oh my gosh, we could do something about this. No, but it's always been a passion. But follow your passion in life. And I was really bad at math. Oh, go ahead.
No. I was going to say per the following the passion. Deciding on the next right move is always challenging for, I think, people. I think a lot of people, particularly anybody listening to this podcast, loves space, loves frontier technology. But it's how do you go from one thing to the other? And I remember having a conversation with a very successful tycoon businessman in Kenya. And he laid out how his wide portfolio, all these businesses. And he said, well, I started off with a small, basically a unit in a coastal area, bought more units, so real estate. And then I one of the real estates that I purchased, one of the lands that I purchased, turns out there were minerals underneath it. And so then I was suddenly a miner. And then it turns out those minerals could be used for cosmetics. And there I was, had a beauty brand. And then turns out my biggest spend on cosmetics was marketing. So then I started, and that's why he started the biggest, channel and, radio and television and all that. And so now he becomes a media mogul. And then he's like, and then from all the media and advertising, so you have a lot of cash. So then I started a whole finance and investment wing. So he has, the whole finance suite. And I thought that was I was so grateful for somebody to finally break down, like, how do you become a mogul? And it's like, well, I kind of just looked at my balance sheet, looked at the sources that were available and said, well, this is where I'm spending money, or this is where I can make money, and just built around that. And you kind of take the whole of it and you think, well, I'm not an expert in beauty or mining, but you just kind of go with it. So in some regards, I feel like in retrospect, having a conversation with him, his passion was efficiency.
Yeah. Sounds super impressive guy.
But and this guy's from, small village and where my grandparents are from, and to kind of just have that very clear logic, step. So when you say follow your passion, how does that go from, I'm working in a government office to I'm going to start a satellite company, to, all of that, and inquiring mind wants to know, because many of our viewers are on that similar path, present company included.
No, great question. I mean, look, there's different ways of looking at all of this. He sounds incredibly impressive, by the way. Wow. I'm like blown away by that. And it's having the faith to take a leap. Okay, this is going to sound really stupid, but I watch a lot. I'm from a small village as well. And in the winter, we used to watch a lot of movies because there wasn't much else to do. And so I had a great old movie called Risky Business with Tom Cruise. Right. And it's about business. It's about a young man who's starting an entrepreneurial business. Right. It's a whole thing.
I know it. And I think I might have to do a rewatch this weekend.
Do a rewatch. It's all about the young entrepreneurs club or something, the young business persons club or something like that. And it doesn't go quite the way they think. But the idea is that's a movie. But he said, sometimes you have to say someone has to have the good job. Why not you? And by following your passion, by following your interest, I am probably the least common sense person. I was always that kid in the class that like, what the hell's he up to now? Dyslexia, ADHD, and all that kind of stuff. What they call neurodivergent these days, kids. It's a skill. It's a benefit. The rest of the human race are in a box, and you're outside the box having way more fun than the others. and then when you realize you don't need permission. You have to follow the law. Of course you do. But hey, I want to start my own company, or I want to do this, or I want to do that. Well, why don't we do that? Why don't I just boom? And all of my friends who stayed in the box, and I love them, they never took that risk. They got risk-taking, right? It's about passion and risk-taking. You can sit there and have every dream you've ever had in your life, but if you don't act on them, you'll never know. But it's frightening to act on your dreams in case it doesn't quite work out the way you think it's going to work out. And I'm like one of those kids, I'm like, oh, what the hell, let's jump off the cliff and see what happens. Right? And so, but by following that passion, I was able to work in politics, and I found others of passion who would be like, oh my gosh, I see the same fire in you. I love this. And the same thing in the space industry. We call it the Moses syndrome. Working for a future we'll never see. We'll never see the promised land. But we go through all this pain and suffering. And if I wanted to make money, I could have made a hell of a lot more money. I've done okay, but a hell of a lot more money, pardon my French, if I'd had taken up a whole bunch of McDonald's franchises or gone to be a merchant banker or stayed and done the law stuff or anything like that. But would I have been happy? Because you only get one life. There's no dress rehearsal.
I say this
so
all the
go
time.
Follow your passion. Go enjoy life.
Yeah.
I say that to my son. If you really love something, go do it. And the money will follow.
Yeah.
It always does. Yeah. Now, if you're really interested in Abyssinian pottery making, maybe not. But boom. No, but who knows? But it might do. But no, but the idea is you've got this one life. Live it the way you want to, not to what you think, not what other people, not what society puts these shackles on you.
Yeah.
The only limitations you have in life are the ones you choose to place upon yourself. So I'll stop now. But I mean, it's a good question. No one's ever really asked me that.
Okay. I like what you're saying about passion and risk-taking. I'd probably take it one step further. Because risk-taking, I find, often implies that there is even a risk. And yes, there are, of course, not everybody can take a lot of risks. There's structural, differences and et cetera. But if you are an average, middle class, healthy, able-bodied person with, some semblance of family unit, there's quite a lot of, there's not a lot of risk. There's not as much risk.
Sure.
It's mostly reputational and feeling ashameless of failure in front of others. So that's how I would say,
Well, I've had plenty of that.
And maybe you just are more shameless than everybody else.
A calculated risk, right?
Yes,
a calculated risk. And I've had a couple of times in my life, I've had very supportive people around me. Nicole, my wife, has been amazingly supportive. I mean, she's a risk taker, right? But as, you don't put on a spacesuit and jump out of a spaceship and you don't like come out of the space station and do stuff without being a risk taker. But again, there's passion, the passion for aviation, the passion for space. Look, and the passion to make a difference in the world. That's the other thing from an earlier stage. It was, I was being growing up on the Isle of Man, you're always taught, if you can make one other person's life better, you've won. And the more people's life you make better, wow, you are like rich beyond the wildest dreams. So you put your time into volunteering, you put your time into NGOs. You don't sit there and, it's up to you, it's your money, right? I mean, you go buy a super yacht or something, but I'm like, that's boring. I'd much rather go off and like change a whole society, change a city, change, we did with Geeks Without Frontiers. I mean, change connectivity around the world. And holy crap, that is way more fun. Super rewarding. All the education programs we do, I don't smell my own farts, not because of that, but we do it because it's the right thing, because it's the best thing, right? And it's just leave the world a better place than when you found it. And if you can just do that, right?
Leaving the world and the promised land. You say you have, no, you don't say sorry. Yeah, I want to catch you on this.
Very Mags.
You mentioned Moses syndrome, building a world that you'll never see. But in your case, you've kind of got a little bit on the boat. You're on the boat.
A little bit.
You're kind of heading towards the promised land. Tell me about data centers in space. What WTF? Let's just call them.
Yes, everyone thought we were completely crazy, right? And that was one of those moments when, well, it's like when I first did the Spectrum company, I was like, you can't do that. I'm like, well, I can. It's within the law. Let's do it. Let's see what happens. And the same with this. A bunch of customers came in and said, look, we have a real problem. We're losing our data. It's in different jurisdictions. There's this data sovereignty thing happening. Hyperscalers and all this stuff that's going on. How do we protect our data? And we started looking at this for them. And I was looking at it going, okay, why did you come to me? And they said, well, you have something to do with space. And I was like, okay, good hint. Good. And you're in pain. This is good. So I was like, yeah, we move data around the world with satellites. Well, what if we just put a bunch of storage up there? And then where'd you put it? So we did the hardest thing first, of course. We looked at the moon. Earth's not just satellite, right? But the more we looked at this, and we were out there, I remember going out to people, and we have some amazing investors, some VC investors who've been superb, who you can tell. I mean, I think we did 173 conversations on the seed round, maybe a little over 200 and something, the round after that. We got funded and you can tell within 5 minutes, the investor would go, I get it.
Yeah.
And then others would be like forever going, I don't get it. It'll never happen. I don't get it. And I'm like, it's okay. It's totally cool. It's your money. It's your rules. Totally fine. But the amount of people who said we were batshit insane, who were completely mad. We need data centers in space. This will never. And I'm like, but a satellite and the data center, they're the same thing. One's just on the ground and one's in space. This is going to, and oh my goodness, in the last few weeks and few months, have we had incredible validation. I mean, we've done all our test flights, so 2 to the moon. It's so cool to walk out at night and just go look at the moon and go, ha, 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 we're there. That is cool. And then our next mission goes up this October into Earth orbit just to meet demand. And then we go back to the moon with the Earth, Moon, Lagrange point stuff. But it's only about data. And as we were getting ready for this chat, I was thinking about this. Like Steve Jurvetson has this incredible chart that he puts together and he keeps updated on Moore's law and exponential computing change. And you see the curve going from the 1950s up. No one ever talks about the curve going back to the point source of emission. That's what they say in optical communications, right? Where was that first spark? Where was that first impart? When did that first human look at another human and say something, do something, impart knowledge? That was the beginning. All we've done is be carriers for knowledge. And we call it knowledge. At first, how to do fire or whatever it was, and talking and writing, and then wood carving and papyrus, and then we get to printing presses, and then we get to the Renaissance and Industrial Revolution, then we get to the second digital Renaissance with digital printing presses we have right now. And you look at it and you go, oh my gosh, it's all about data. It's all about a 1 and a 0, and the knowledge that represents and how it improves and enriches all of our lives. And so when we look at data centers in space, it is just a function of market economics to meet a demand using the unique environment of space and geography of space and law of space to fill this market demand. Because ours is a demand pull company as opposed to a technology push.
Mm-hmm,
we have a lot of IP and stuff, which you could have amazing engineering team. Oh my gosh, my CTO, former head of Google Data Centers, and was US CEO of ISI, the synthetic aperture radar company, Dr. Mark Matozzi, and my chief engineer, Jim Burns-Montante, and a Draper and a Honeywell, radiation expert in space. Carol Goldstein, our CFO, the first ever woman VP at Morgan Stanley, and the first ever person to do satellite finance, created their unit in ING and ABN and AMRO, and it's like, boom, Steve Isley, Virgin Orbit, and Astrium and Surisat before that, now our CEO. Always surround yourselves with amazing people who are way more intelligent and delegate. I was always taught, a guy called Jay Honeycutt was on our advisory board. Jay was a center director at Kennedy Space Center when I went to go work there for him. And I was part of my student program, and he introduced me to Nicole and all the great things that happened. And then he was president at Lockheed when I worked there too. And Jay always says two things. Number one is, if you walk in the room and you're the smartest person in the room, you've failed. You've completely failed.
I couldn't agree more. I actually deeply enjoy being the dumbest person in the room.
Always.
It means there's something to do in the room.
I can make coffee. Right? And then Jay always says too, he had it written on a piece of wood in his office. And he was this magnificent office at the Kennedy Space Center in the old headquarters building. This incredible American eagle on the floor on the carpet. And it was like the Von Braun type office, literally a Von Braun office, right? And he had up on his wall that said, don't tell me what you can't do, tell me what you can do.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And that's that subtle shift. It's like, oh, be careful. It's like, oh, don't drop that. Oh, no, hold on to it tighter. It's one of those subtle linguistic shifts, but wow. And that ability to do with this team and what we've done, it is always amazing people, delegate. And as we've been doing this, the market has risen up and the wave has come. We'd like to think, a lot of us are surfers, we catch that wave as it's coming in. And what was crazy, what was absolutely seen to be insane, but we knew it wasn't because we were talking to the customers. We were talking directly to the market. Now, oh my gosh, everyone's like, they're still at that kind of, is it crazy moment. It's starting to peter into, oh my gosh, there might actually be something here. Well, especially when some of the wealthiest individuals, the largest corporations in the world just go, ooh, this works. And I'm like, yes. But there's many flavors of data center in space.
I was going to say, walk me through the economics of this, because I mean, so there's the technology side, which I'm not even going to purport to engage in.
No, that's right.
You managed to get it there.
Yeah.
So it's there. But the economic side of it, right? So much of what you were saying about this being a demand-driven side is that electricity, this is my understanding, electricity here is so expensive that they have to find a cheaper way of powering. And ostensibly, there's a presumption therein that it is cheaper to power it in space. And this is and this is including the launch costs, et cetera. How is this cheaper? One time cheaper, 2 times cheaper, 100 times cheaper. What's the numbers?
97% less operational expenditures. So here we go. So this is where it gets really interesting. You've got this unique thing in space, right? With the fusion power from the sun, free energy, free cooling, and the radiative cooling and all that. And when you look at this and you go, why would you put all these things in space? This is just, but you nailed it. It's energy. It's the cost of power. So what you have to do is look at this, not from a space point of view, I would suggest. Look at it from a data center point of view. So the last couple of years, people have been saying, Chris, we haven't seen you and your team at the space conferences. I'm like, no, we've been at the data center conferences. That's where our customers and partners are. Why don't you guys get? We would invite them. Please come in on a panel and speak with us. And they're like, oh no, I'm going to go to whatever space conference. I think that's the great people, but that's the choir. Come over here where the demand is and see it from their point of view. So when you've got a data
Very,
center,
yeah.
this is not even an AI data center. This is a regular, normal, oh my gosh, modern miracle of engineering, modern cathedral in the middle of a city data center. The annual operational expenditure, on average, per year, is equal to the capital expenditure to build it. That's how much energy they're using and how much it's costing.
ROI within a year.
Return on investment, not so much, but the capex.
Oh, sorry, not the return, but net break even 1 year. ROI.
Oh, the cost.
13 months. So
exactly. They make so much money out of these things.
Yeah.
And
so you build one, you break even after a year of using it, and then the next year you're already on the plus side.
No, different. Sorry, I'm saying different thing on the costs. So capital expenditure, operational expenditure.
Yes.
All right.
CapEx,
so
OpEx.
What the first year of OpEx, given the cost of energy, is equal to the entire many years of CapEx to build it.
Oh.
Right?
Okay.
Right? Isn't that interesting? And then the second year is that plus inflation and however else has gone up the cost of energy.
Yeah.
Because the cost of energy is not really coming down that much.
No.
And so it's like fast, and there's more and more demand for the energy. So you're sitting there going, okay, this is interesting. So now I've got AI training and inference. You've got the one site out of Meta, several sites, but the one that everyone looks at, the one out in, is it Mississippi or Louisiana, or maybe one in each, which is 5 gigawatts. And people are like, no. Microsoft just did a deal with Blackstone for so many 1 gigawatt sites. And I'm like, yeah, hold on. And give us a couple of years, we'll be at 10. And then we'll be at 100 gigawatt site. And then we'll be slipping into terawatts.
Yeah.
And the demand is insatiable, right? So how do you do that down here? And so you look at the cost, the time, the energy. People in Virginia are saying, Dominion Energy says, I'd love to sell you more energy. We just don't have the energy to sell. The local grid's collapsing in Ireland, where there's a moratorium comes on and off. Singapore's having issues. The whole world is going, oh my gosh. And so the time, capital expenditure, power issues, because you have two sources of independent power coming in, and cable and communications and all these vulnerabilities. And you go, well, if I just put it in space, wait a minute. So the capex with launch, and costs are coming down for launch, but the capex at launch and materials costs and everything else, and getting a spectrum filing through the Isle of Man, always the best place in the world. And you do all of these things, right?
Shout out
and
Isle
of Man. Of course, always. And I was going to say my peeps, but my sheeps, 3 times as many sheep than people in my village, and they're lovely, dinner and a date. So when you look at this and you go, well, the capex is similar amounts, different buckets of capex, because you're not buying land and machinery and equipment and plant on the ground versus rockets and equipment in space. But all of a sudden, 2 amazing things happen. Number one, your energy cost goes away from an operational expenditure point of view. It's gone. Yeah. And I would suggest looking at how much money, public domain, Tesla makes from selling carbon credits. Sometimes it's as much as they do from selling cars. Imagine how many carbon credits they're going to make up there with this. Interesting, right? So there's that one element. So the energy costs. All of a sudden, you don't have OpEx, and you can scale. Whereas on the ground, you've got to fight for power. You've got to fight your competitors for power. You've got to fight your local governments for power. Power.
Well,
right?
Because it basically, as we've seen, and maybe we can use this to segue into a conversation about the risks. As we've seen, these data centers have been kind of being pitted against humans. In terms of there's discussion around, are the costs of energy rising because of their presence?
Oh, yeah.
Are the cost of water or the availability even of clean water becoming increasingly scarce for the humans as it's being provided for the robots? So maybe. Can we talk about the risks of data centers in space?
Yeah.
What are they?
Absolutely. I'll talk about that. And I got
are
one
we
last
flying
thing
around
on the
and it gets hit? We get hit in the head, or
it's starting to happen. No, but look, and then one last thought on that geography of space. And I promise I'll go to the risks. that last thought is, and I'm sitting here looking at the water, right, where we live, and oceans and seas and lakes touch all of those people with a shoreline. Unlike the ocean, space touches every country in the world. So there you are in a nation which could be huge, it could be small, you could be developed or developing. And someone says, well, how are you going to take part in the AI future? Where's your 5 gigawatt, terawatt system? Because you've got data sovereignty has to be in your country. How are you going to do this? Up. all of a sudden those satellites see every single country in the world every day. That unique geography where you can actually tap into any country in the world and provide service to any country in the world. So they don't have to build these massive power grids and massive heat sinks and everything else that's happening with this. They can keep their water. Isn't that, that's a little, oh my gosh, that's a little, and to me at least, I'm going, ooh. And then it costs the same amount of time to build one of these things on the ground as it does to put them in space. And it's like, ooh. So then you've got all these people, like all these billionaires who have their own rocket companies going, ooh. Right? But then the risks. So the risks, you've got some interesting risks on this. You've got natural risks and human risks.
Okay.
So the natural risks, right? Everything from solar storms and radiation from space. But we've been putting satellites up for 69 years this year. Next year, 2027, is the 70th anniversary of Sputnik. When it comes to solar flares and radiation, like with geosats and everything else, we're good at handling this. Not perfect, but it's a known unknown. So if you've got the right engineering teams, you can handle the radiation. Proper shielding and proper everything else and proper use of proper qualified equipment. It's a known unknown. Thermal management, yes, we've been doing thermal for a long time. Some of the different flavors of data centers, because we do storage, we do disaster recovery and storage. So we're using SSDs, solid state devices. We're low power. We actually say we're operational now. We don't need these big systems, which are great, and these interconnected, for AI training and inference, a lot of power, a lot of heat. But we get rid of heat in space. We've been doing it on space shuttles, space stations, satellites forever, as far as we're concerned. So it's an engineering problem. It can be done. So those are the natural ones: radiation, heat from the sun, and all this.
What can I just interject there? Yeah. What about repairs? Something goes wrong, data center breaks a leg. How are you going to get up there to service it?
No, you don't.
No service.
And no triple redundancy, no servicing. And it's interesting. That's what's happening on the ground here too. What's happening? They call lights out data centers, because they're finding out that most 99.99% of the problems come from humans. And humans bumping into something, plugging the wrong thing in, doing the wrong thing. And also, these things are so big now. So the Meta site, the 5 gigawatt site, is a building which is bigger than the island of Manhattan. As one structure. This is going to be the largest structure ever built in human history that we know of. Bigger than the VAB, bigger than the Boeing 777 plant, way bigger. Bigger than the island of Manhattan. And the idea is there's no one in there. Because if something goes wrong, it doesn't matter. You have so many drives, just fail over to the next one and keep going. It's not cost effective on the ground anymore to go replace things and fix things and maintain them. It's changed that much. Isn't that incredible? Because by the time you're building it, you're doing modular construction. Because by the time you've got this thing 4 to 7 years to build it, the tech's changed so much. The tech you bought to go in the front door, it's like one of those little Space Invader things going boom, 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 boom. And coming in the back door is going to be the new ones, and then the newer ones, and then the newer ones.
Yeah.
It's amazing. And so the same thing in space. You want to look at planned obsolescence, planned safe deorbiting, and that's where the human element comes in. That's where the regulations come in. So you've got an incredibly well-regulated environment in space.
But how do you do that?
Oh, how do you mean? Like
how are you going to have an incredibly well-regulated environment, particularly on the moon?
Oh, well, on the moon, oh my gosh, everything that applies in low Earth orbit, all the different treaties apply on the moon too. And yes, it's first come, first served for access to space, for spectrum at the International Telecommunications Union. There's many absolute rules of the road. So if your satellite's orbiting and someone else comes in, you have priority. If it's an older satellite, a newer satellite. And here's the interesting thing. And where you choose, because you have 193 countries and add another 14 jurisdictions on top, right? Where you choose to operate from. And that has a huge impact. Do you set up your company in, say, Luxembourg or the Isle of Man or Singapore or England or North America, United States, Mexico? Where do you set it up, right? Australia, New Zealand? And people go, well, why? And they go, well, it's well regulated. And you know who likes really good regulations? Not just the regulators, who, by the way, are your best friend in space. Because they know more about your system than you do. They know more about trying to help you get up there and get there safely and get the licensing for launch licensing and spectrum. But the other people who love this are the people with all the money. When people go, oh, I'm going to go to a place that has no space law, and ha ha ha, aren't I clever? It's like, no, I'm not going to give you any money. I've got no protection. I want you to go to a proper jurisdiction that has proper space law, which meets the obligations of the treaties, which means you're not going to cause an accident, which means you can get insurance and financing. And that's why you've got these pockets like the Isle of Man, like London, like Luxembourg, like Singapore, like Tokyo, like Adelaide and Sydney and Melbourne, like the United States. Here in Florida, you've got Texas, you've got California, you've got Colorado. Why? Good regulation, safe regulation, because you don't get on that rocket unless you have the piece of paper that lets you get on that rocket, right? And so it's all about, well, how are you going to deorbit all these satellites? What are you going to be doing? How's this going to work? Oh, that's a whole discussion. And there you're going to have insurers, financiers, and regulators heavily involved, because we don't want them falling on Earth. We also don't want them staying up there and blocking other people and blocking other orbits.
So you said a few things. So we've talked so far about the risks of doing what you're doing, but then there's conversely the risks of not doing what you're doing. And you brought up a few interesting points. Obviously there's the risk of not doing what we're doing, pertinent to people, the planet. But there does seem to be a race. There seems to be a race to the moon, a race to space, and this race is for it's multipolar at the moment, but it seems to be heading in a bipolar direction. And kind of whoever wins the race sets the agenda, sets the accords, creates the regulation environment. What are your thoughts on that? This
oh my gosh, hold on to your seat.
3.0.
Yeah, absolutely. No, we're in Cold War 2.0. You've got Team Tyranny and Team Freedom. I'm firmly with Team Freedom, if you hadn't figured that out.
Words.
Yeah. Well, you've got China, Russia, North Korea, Cuba, and Venezuela have all partnered up, with Iran, have all partnered up to have their own moon base.
Yes.
I don't know. I mean, they're the most democratic of peoples. And then you've got the rest of us who have all come together under the Artemis Accords and more. But this is the difference this time. Back in Cold War 1.0, these were new technologies. We went to the moon 6 times with humans with a slide rule. Now it's changed.
Unbelievable.
But also, right? Incredible, right? and now, but the reasons have changed. Because when we did that, we had, 2.5 billion people in the world. We're now getting close to 9. We have a world where people for our entire history have been fighting over resources. It's the human race. It's very competitive, aren't we? We race each other, right? It's not like it's the human, let's sit down and group hug. It's the human race. The word river and the word rival have the same derivation. We've been fighting over fresh water for our entire existence. And yet, for the first time in our existence ever, something has changed. We now have the tools to make the tools to make the tools. We now have a rocket engine, which you've had since World War II, or slightly before World War II. But now, 130, 40 years later, that rocket engine now gives us access to unlimited energy and unlimited resources. Rare earth minerals are not rare in space. They're just minerals. Same thing with all that energy that we use anyway down here. This idea that now we're going back, not for political reasons, it's not to win a Cold War. It is for absolute survival of the species and economic necessity. We're now at that point. By going to space, we could, and I firmly believe we will, move to abundance. This concept of where every man, woman, and child can be lifted out of poverty. Well, we have to redefine what poverty is.
I would contend also we're going to have to redefine what economic distribution is, because how you do anything is how you do everything. Yes. So if we're going to apply the same economic models we have here, first past the post, accumulation, we're going to end up with even more wealth disparity if we apply the same economic model, outside of our planet. But that's really, so you've segued perfectly into my, last question, which is the future.
Oh, that's the last one. Yes.
Well, the future, you're clearly, obviously, you're an optimist about the future when it comes to space. I think many of the listeners and, people that we interview for this podcast are. And I'm gaking that you see the risks of not doing anything as much higher than the risks of doing something, which, you're preaching to the choir here.
We're 100% gone as a species in a generation if we don't. That's the race. That's the imperative. That's the ticking clock. We're gone.
That's the headline. You actually believe that?
Yes. Everything I've seen my entire life, all the statistics, everything I'm looking at, from demographics to superflus to volcanoes to nuclear war to everything, we're gone.
You're saying that as a
We need
parent
to make
too,
that
because
shift.
one generation, that's your
Yeah,
kid.
I know, which is why I'm fighting so hard. Really. That's why every waking hour is on this. But there's hope. Everyone always talks about what is your view of the future, right? There's two views of the future. You can either take a positive view or a negative view.
Yeah.
The negative view is the Hunger Games, the Terminator, something dystopian, Orwellian. George wrote those books as a warning, not as a guide. This idea that you can have hope. Now, there is an absolute resistance movement out there that has been working for this. It's an open secret. Oh my gosh, have we been pushing for this forever? It's every sci-fi writer there's ever been, from Jules Verne onwards. This idea. We talk about the Star Trek future. Peter Diamandis, fantastic author of Abundance and Bold, Peter talks about this. He says Star Trek's the best documentary about the future he's ever seen. Not about the Klingons and warp drives and all the drama, but about a future where every man, woman, and child, they come to life and they are fed, they are clothed, they are educated, they are housed. And the only thing in life that you pursue is personal excellence or societal excellence. You don't pursue money anymore. Because why? There's no more scarcity. Everyone wins. Doesn't mean that if I win, you lose, I win. That's scarcity. That's the war in Ukraine. That is demented old men fighting over things that no one needs to fight about anymore. We have access to space.
Is that the second headline?
Everything.
We're getting rid of demented old men as well.
That would be great. That would be great. Just saying, one day I will be one. One day I hope very much to be one. But this idea, right? And so, but what gives me hope? So the writings of, like I said, the most amazing thing is they all knew each other. So I was sitting in the Reform Club one night in London, and I've been a member forever. And I pull a book off the shelf, and I'm looking at that, and I'm like, oh my gosh, it was the bar bill from H.G. Wells, Jules Verne, and Conan Doyle. Verne hated to travel. He came there one time. These two young guys who were friends, Conan Doyle and H.G. Wells, they couldn't get published with their fantastical fiction. They were journalists at the Strand. And without them, we wouldn't have time travel, the scientific method, Sherlock Holmes. Jurassic Park was dedicated to Conan Doyle. He did the first sci-fi about dinosaurs. War of the Worlds, biotech, nanotech, everything. But then Jules Verne, Around the World in 80 Days, all the way through 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. But everyone looking at technology, how to use technology to make life better. And then Verne and Wells and those guys poached into Clark, Asimov, and Heinlein, who themselves went to Niven and Pournelle, to Gibson, to Stevenson, Scalise, all of them. They all know each other. It's like this thing saying, hey, maybe they're better. And Roddenberry, oh my gosh. When the world was going to, pardon my friends, am I allowed to swear? Yeah, when the world, okay, as the world every now and then in these cycles starts to go to shit, Roddenberry's like, we can do better. And he was trying so hard to get things through the censors, and it wasn't working. So he turned to science fiction. And he said, let's show a world where everyone actually is equal, where men and women are equal, and people of color are equal, where you have different people doing things and they're equal, and they're striving towards a better society. And oh my gosh, that's like a beacon in the night. Like Carl Sagan said, light a candle in the dark, right? Show people, give them a guided light to go towards, and they will go towards it. And you might have noticed in this last couple of years that his son, Rod, awesome guy. We've actually flew some things for them up to the moon. Rod and his team got back together and said, I don't like the way the world's going. We need another shot in the arm. Have you noticed all the Star Trek shows that have been coming out recently? All of it written by incredible. Oh my gosh, for your kids. I mean, by the way, Star Trek Prodigy is probably the best one. Specifically written for children.
I'm hearing from your vision, what I'm hearing, because one of my questions was going to be, what are the impediments to realizing this better future? But from what I'm hearing is, I almost think you're conveying that the greatest impediment to a better future is our imagination.
Yes.
Like, where are
absolutely.
Our narratives and our stories
Yes.
that can tell a different version from the narrative and stories happening currently on TikTok and Instagram, which are leaning absolutely dystopian. And I think this speaks, you're talking about one generation. This speaks to the nihilism that, Gen Zs are experiencing vis-a-vis society and economies and their contributions. So, we've kind of, at the beginning, I asked you, what's your passion? How did you have this color for creating? Like, my passion, and it's this you had this narrative arc of, I followed this storyline that was only in my head. It was my imagination, and it kind of went in that direction. And I'm almost hearing that your closing is everybody needs to start reimagining what the next 20 years looks like, and not only follow that passion or that thread or that narrative, but start creating it.
Yes,
but it does begin with a story.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Embrace it. Love it. Don't fear technology. Fight for the future. Think of a better world and make it happen. It's our world. It's our lives. You do not need permission to do this. And that's one of the great stigmas. So Ken Robinson, fantastic TED Talk. We did a documentary on him too. So Ken's awesome. May he rest in peace. He was talking about how the modern school system is wonderful, but it sucks all the imagination out. It was teaching people to go into a factory, come off a farm, go into a factory, go into an office. Teacher, can I answer a question? Teacher, can I go to the bathroom? Teacher, can I have a revolution? You don't need someone else's permission to change the world or to change your life. Go change it. And what an incredible world. This is a golden age. You now have in your hand access, and Peter talks about this in abundance, access to more information on that portable data center in your hand. We call it a smartphone. Your portable data center, you have more access to information there than the President of the United States did 10 years ago. Every piece of artwork, music, film, culture, any kind of reference on economics, law, medicine, oh my gosh, the perfect Renaissance education. And what an incredible, but if we all hide inside and let them divide us, let them, modern media, if it bleeds, it leads. Like you said, the dystopian on the TikTok, it's that scene in Pretty Woman, like I said, lots of movies, where Richard Gere says to Julia Roberts' character, why do you believe the bad stuff? You're lovely. Why do you believe the bad stuff? And she goes, well, it's easier to believe the bad stuff. It's a human failing. It doesn't have to be. There is a glorious future when no one need starve. No one need die for lack of medication. No one need die because they're stuck outside in the bloody weather. That is Dickensian. That is medieval. As Larry Niven said, move all the heavy industry off the planet. So we have access to the free unlimited energy of space and resources. And you might hear that echoed in a certain Mr. Bezos who quotes Larry's book. And there we were during COVID. Look at the DART mission. Not fart. Dart guns, fart guns, like in the Despicable Me. DART, D-A-R-T. Remember how I said Larry Niven said, dinosaurs became extinct because they didn't have a space program? Got hit by the asteroid? NASA took out an asteroid.
Yeah.
Hit it so damn hard, not with a nuclear weapon like in the movies, just with a little CubeSat. Hit it so damn hard, it rang the bell for the entire solar system and knocked it off into the distance. And you can see the Hubble photographs of that and all sorts of stuff. It's incredible. So there you have a group of free men, free women, who are laboring under horrific bureaucracy, horrible budgets, and they pull off the impossible. So now we need never fear that threat again. We're the first species that we know of that doesn't have to look into the skies with fear in our eye. Incredible, because we are evolved tool using apes. Get the tech, go do it. Same thing with our lives. Go grab that smartphone, improve your life, learn something. Change your education, change your profession. Why not? You're a human being. You are the most incredible thing that has ever existed in the whole universe. There's only ever been one you in the entire history of the whole universe. And we have a bill with one. Even identical twins aren't. You are the greatest gift. And we have human beings cleaning toilets and shit. I'm like, that's for robots.
My favorite right now is a trending of memes going around on the internet, which is AI is stealing my job, and it's just a series of people, like generally stay-at-home moms who are like putting away laundry and dishes, and they're like, when and I think we can all relate to that as we are cleaning our house. Like, when is AI taking this one of
I can't wait
jobs?
for that, right? I mean, and I look at
I'm still waiting.
I look at a modern kitchen. Well, I've got my name down for one of the IX robotics. I can't wait. The founder's an amazing guy. Great TED Talk too. I look at my kitchen. We're blessed in our parts of the world to have a dishwasher, an oven, a microwave, a washer dryer, a sink where water comes out and we can drink it without dying. Oh my gosh. And people said, I don't want a robot in the house. I said, okay, we'll take away the oven and the microwave and take away the dishwasher. Take away the washer dryer and go chop that wood, go burn that wood, go boil that water, go catch that food, go. And I'm like, you've already got robots in the house.
Yeah.
They just don't have legs and they don't have eyes that look at you funny.
Well, that being the next step, So I think
I
this is
can't
a
wait. Yeah.
perfect place to
To
close
shut me up.
this time of our conversation. But I have a sneaking suspicion we might have to have you on again,
I'd love
because I know that what you have coming up with Lone Star, you're sending up more data centers this year.
Yeah, October at the Vandenberg Space Force Base. It's so James Bond. I love it.
Fantastic. I can't wait. We will watch. I'm going to include that in the show notes. And yeah, what's the future looking like for Lone Star? How many more data centers? What's the plan? How many years?
Oh, proliferated LEO. The next one goes up in October, and then we've got a bunch of deals in the background. If that works out, we'll have probably several hundred going up, but with all sorts of different things. Back up to the Earth Moon Lagrange point by 2028 as well. And then when we're back on the moon in the future, absolutely down in those lava tubes. Are you kidding me? As Nicole says, my wife, the moon is such a perfect place for data storage. If it wasn't there, we'd have to build it.
Perfect. Thank you so much to you and to your wife. Next time, I want to see it. Thank you so much for your time and for sharing your very specific insights, very unique insights. I've never spoken with anybody who's put anything on the moon, so it's been a real pleasure.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me. This has been great questions. And actually got me thinking and talking. I never really get to talk in the interview, so thank you very much. Very insightful questions. Thank you, Rosalia. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great day. And we'll put everything in the show notes from our conversation today with Chris Stott.
Yep.
And we look forward to having him again on our show. Thank you. And
thank you very much.
Goodbye.
Thanks.
I want to thank our guest for joining today's episode of GTWN Now, and give a big thank you to our sponsors, CMS Global, for making this episode possible. Today's podcast will be available on our website, gtwn.org, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and wherever else you get your podcasts. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button so you'll be notified when new episodes drop. I'm your host, Rosalia Gitau, GTWN International Board Member, wishing you a week of wonder.